Yeah, good morning, students and listeners, because we know that it's not only our students who listen to the radio lecture, people outside the campus, and even some of our students who are not even in level 200 do listen to it. I'm Patricia MAWUSI Amos from the Department of Educational Foundations, and today I'm here with Psychology of Human Development and Learning, and it's mostly for level 200 students. Today we are going to talk about the principles of growth and development. Last week, Mr. Mahama came around with some concepts of psychology, human growth and development, and also learning. And so we learned about what psychology is all about. Others will say that it's the study of the mind and behavior, and we even went to the further to talk about the Greek name or the Latin name for psychology. We had the definition for learning. We again talked about what growth development is all about. I'll go through what growth and development is all about, because that is what I'm going to talk about when it comes to its principles. Then we went on to talk about what development is all about. Now with growth and development, or growth and maturation, realize that we talked about growth in saying that growth is quantifiable, because as one is growing, you could see that the body is changing. The person will be maybe 30 centimeters in height, and last week and maybe last 2 weeks, those of us in my class, you realize that we talked about the height in which when a child is born, the average height. And so as time goes on, by 3 months, 6 months, 9 months and 1 year, you realize that the body is changing. Maybe when the child gets to the adolescent stage, you realize that he has even become a woman or a man. A lot of things have changed in the person, and you see that we always see the growth that is occurring in the human being. It's quantifiable, you can measure it. But when we come to maturation, we realize that it is something that is more subjective. You really don't see it. It deals with the intellectual, the emotional aspect of the human being, and most of the time we interchange growth and maturation, and I believe that Mr. Mahama talked about that. And so today we are going to deal with the principles that characterizes the pattern and processes of growth and development. And so we will start with the Cephalocordal Principle. That's the first one. I am saying it not in order, but saying it maybe through the way it is directed. So the Cephalocordal Principle states that development proceeds from top to bottom. Development proceeds from top to bottom. And from last week, all of us have been learning what growth is all about, and the processes of conception, how the child grows in the mother's womb, and later on through labor when the child is brought forth into this world. And we realize that the head starts forming before every other thing. So it starts from the top to bottom. And you realize that in class we were also saying that if anything will stop, normally we always say that if a society will be better, it starts from the head. If things are going wrong, and it will be okay with the society or with the community or organization, then it will start from the head, because the leader and the leaders must change things before it will get to those under. And it happens in the same way. As we develop, our head will have to be firm. And so you realize that when the child is growing, normally when you carry the child on at the back, no, people will tell you that make sure that the head is very firm. Otherwise, when the neck goes back, that is the end. If it breaks, you have destroyed the life of the child. the head, the neck must be very firm so that the child can develop properly. I have had the opportunity of seeing a child who has a very big head, and later I got to know that there is a lot of water in the head of the child. The child cannot contain the head, he cannot stand. And this is a child of about 10 years, and the mother is carrying him at the back. If the head is not good, things will fall apart with the rest of the body. So we are saying that development proceeds from top to bottom. So a child will gain physical control of the head first, then after which the physical control will move downwards to the arms and to the legs. So a newborn will need support with the head. Then by 2 months, it develops strength to hold the head. Now with Proximodistal Principle, this also talks about the direction of development. And this principle states that development proceeds from the center of the body outward. And always I will use the example of the egg. Those of us who have killed hens before, you realize that when you kill it, there are a lot of eggs in there. And if you are fortunate, you see a matured egg in there, and you realize that there are shells, the albumin, the yolk, everything is there. At other times, you see the small ones, and the small ones normally we see is the yolk. So think about it. Why is it that the yolk forms first before the albumin and the shell? Just because it has been planned that development should start from the center to the outward for everybody to see. So anytime things will go wrong, realize that it may even start from inside. So development starts from the center of the body outward. So for a fertilized egg, the cell divides and expand outward to become an embryo. The spinal cord will form, limbs of the body will form before the hands and the feet, and the hands and the feet will also develop before the fingers and the toes. Again, the growth and development is orthogenetic. The orthogenetic principle. This one is said that development proceeds from simple to complex. So the simple things, the things that we really don't consider, we don't even think about, that forms the most important aspect of the human being. It starts from the simple to complex. So I will always tell my students that the little things that we don't consider, that forms the most important aspect of our lives. And so when we give respect to those things, it will help us to become better people. The simple things. So the egg will form, the sperm will come and join itself to the egg. It forms a zygote, it continues growing, then later on, as we learned last week, it becomes a fetus. It is something simple. That is why you see young people who don't plan from their pregnancy go and terminate the pregnancy, thinking that they are simple things. But you don't know what the person will become in the future. Development starts from simple to complex. So it again implies that development of more complex tasks begin with the mastery of simple tasks first. If you want to learn something that is very difficult to do, you need to start from the simple before you can learn the complex ones. And so before we end, we will apply this in the classroom, in our educational sector, how we need to apply simplicity to the complex aspect of learning. So we are saying again that one stage of development lays the foundation for the next stage of development. Then again, development is continuous. It continues throughout life. It never stops. It never stops. So growth reaches maturation. Even after maturation, has been attained, development does not end. I was a child, I did certain things that I didn't know, but as I grow and I experience a lot of things, I meet a lot of people, different backgrounds, different cultures, I learn all these things. And so by the time I get to age of 35, 40, you realize that you become fully matured, but you've still not gotten there. There are a lot of successes that you need to achieve. And so though you've reached your maturation, it does not stop there. You need to continue with it. People learn, they get to the professorial stage in life, but they still keep learning. And you meet your students in the classrooms, at the lecture halls, and you keep learning new things. They expose you to a lot of things. So growth and development, it does not end. It is continuous. Development is sequential. Every species follow a pattern of development to it. So this pattern is same for everyone. It is the same for everyone. We grow in the same pattern. Maybe sometimes you will see something different from somebody, especially sometimes when we are talking about the physical aspects, physical development and cognitive development and all that. Especially with physical development, some people will say that we always talk about children crawling. They crawl, then they stand, then they start walking. But there are some children that do not crawl. So they sit, by the time you realize they've gotten up and they are walking. It is rare, we hardly see it, but there is something particular or peculiar about all of us. We follow a certain pattern of development. And so I keep saying that if we miss something, it becomes difficult for the person to become a normal person. Averagely, everybody must go through a certain sequential pattern so that growth and development will be successful in the human's life. So the child crawls before the child will creep, or stand before he walks, and babbles before he talks. A lot of children babble. They will babble before they talk. And when they are babbling, you realize that everything is going well. They will talk. There are some children who will come 1 year, 2 years, they've not even made any babble. Then that is when you should be alarmed and get some attention for your child. Development proceeds from general to specific. Development proceeds from general to specific. What are the general things? We talked about simplicity to the complex. The general things, the things that people do not regard, we do not consider, we do not respect, that will give way to the specific things that will help us to be matured in the things that we do. So if you don't consider those things, development will not be successful. So for instance, an infant after birth is able to make general movements with the eyes, arms and legs. So general movement. But we realize that as they grow, 1 year when they are walking, running, they will fall. So sometimes you want to give them a helping hand. And interestingly, when you are trying to do that, they will not even mind you. They don't want you to help them. But you want to make sure that they do not fall. They do it haphazardly. They do it anyhow. But as they get to 2 years, 3 years, you realize that they become firm on the ground. They will run, they will not fall. They will do a lot of things on their own. The general things we do not consider, that gives way to the more specific task. So after perfection of these general movements, the infants learn to make specific movements. Those complex things that we do not think about. That is what they do. Development is gradual. Development is gradual, meaning development does not come all of a sudden. It is cumulative in nature. It is cumulative in nature. It takes a time to develop properly so that things will go well in the life of the human being. Whenever we are talking about threats to development, God willing, next week, Mrs. Sama will take us through that. She will take us through growth. Then Miss Cruce will come with threats to development. And as we go through, we should look at some of the things that goes on in the life of the human being that will destroy or not make their life a successful one because of duplication of chromosomes, because of some addition of chromosomes that will destroy or tamper with development. It does not come all of a sudden. It is a cumulative thing. So it has to take its time. When yours is becoming too fast, something must stop it. So for instance, a child is born first day and you see some teeth coming out from the gum. Is it not strange? It is not cumulative in nature. It does not come all of a sudden. It needs to take its time. So whenever they see these things, they may end up removing them because that is not what it's supposed to be. Development should be gradual. We will open the phone lines so that as I go through it, if you have any question, if you have any inputs, you can call in. So the phone line, it's 0503 92 3158, 0503 92 3158, and this is for calls and WhatsApp. Okay. And we are also on Facebook page, Radio Windy Bay 98.3 FM. Facebook page, Radio Windy Bay 98.3 FM. So you can call in, just ask your questions, make your inputs for your other mates to also learn from you. We are talking about the principles of growth and development. Principles of growth and development. We talked about growth being continuous. We talked about growth being cephalocordal. We've talked about postmodistal principle. And so we are going to talk about development has a certain rate which varies from person to person. The rate of development varies from person to person. Before that, I talked about the gradual development. It does not come all of a sudden. We go through a certain pattern. But averagely, research has shown us that we all do it in a certain order. So most of the time when they tell you that a child should walk by 1 year, it is an average thing. It is common to all of us. So if you take thousands of children, about 9,000 of them should walk by 1 year. That is what they are trying to say. Then once in a while, you see that a child will walk maybe 13 months, 18 months, or 2 years. It is rare, but averagely, by 1 year, a child should be walking. We go through certain rates of development, which varies from person to person. So I was once, on Monday, I was talking to a mate of mine, and we were talking about our children because they attend the same school. And as we discussed, he said, oh, my children are doing very well, because he asked me about my third born, who most of the time I use in the classroom because of some of these developmental stages. And so he said, the problem I have with my first son is that he doesn't pay attention in class. He has a short attention span, And then again, anytime they are teaching, it looks as if he doesn't listen to anything. So when he comes home, even homework in class 5, I have to be on him, sit with him, make sure that he does the right thing, because if you give him the book, he will end up going to do something that is not right. But what we have noticed is that normally these things happen to boys, and it is around this stage of their lives. So I told him that do whatever you need to do. Don't, yes, I understand you if you are worried, because we all got worried at a certain point in time of our children's lives. But all these things will pass and he will grow out of it. All you need to do is do your part. So pay attention to him, help him with his assignments, and make sure that he does the right thing. It will shock you that by the time he gets to JHS, you would have even forgotten that he was doing some of these things, because he would have developed to become a better person. So keep doing the good work you are doing. He believes that it is not common with children. It is not common with boys. So he's worried. Why is everybody doing this? My daughter is doing the right thing. That is what he's saying. But why the older one, the boy who is supposed to do it for the others to look to observe and learn from it, he is rather doing a different thing. He's worried because he sees that all other boys are not like that. But I told him it is something that happens. Rate of development varies from a person to person. He has seen that it is common to everybody. So why is my son not doing what everybody is doing? But the rate of development varies from person to person. You should be alarmed when he gets to a certain age, JHS, and he's still having that problem. You should be alarmed. So do your part and things will go well. If it's not, get the consultation of other experts to help the child. So development rate is not uniform. Boys and girls have different development rates, and each part of the body has its own particular rate of development. So I would add again that there are periods of intensity and equilibrium, and there are periods of imbalance. And I've explained it with the scenario I gave about the boy not being attentive and all that. There are periods of intensity, there are periods of equilibrium, and there are periods of imbalances. But when you pay attention to the child very well, they grow to become better people. Development again is predictable. Physiological and psychological potentialities can be predicted by observation and psychological test. It is predictable. We are not soothsayers, we are not prophets, but it is continuous research that has made us to know that whenever a child is doing something in the classroom and you see the potentialities of the child, what he or she is doing, the outcome, you will know that, oh, this child is very good at this. Let me help him develop it, because one day he will become a better person in this particular jurisdiction. Development is predictable. Physiological and psychological potentialities can be predicted by observation and psychological test. Sometimes we use tests in checking the potentialities of an individual, the intellectual aspects, the potentialities. We use tests to check, and sometimes we observe what they do to be able to know that this is what they will become. And so if you realize that your child is becoming unattentive, is working in a certain way, you need to give him the attention. Get the consultation of the experts, the medical people, the psychologist, to help in this regard. The lines are opened. You can call or send a WhatsApp on 0503 92 923158. 0503 923158. Then we are on Facebook page Radio Windy Bay 98.3 FM. Facebook page Radio Windy Bay 98.3 FM. We are still on principles of human growth and development. We talked about 6 principles and we are going to the next one. Growth and development is of both hereditary and influenced by environmental factors. Growth and development is of both hereditary and influenced by environmental factors. How many of us believe that wherever we were coming from or wherever we grew from have a lot of influence on us? How many of us have noticed that? How many of us know that if they give birth to me in a certain environment where rich people live and all that, the expectation becomes high compared to a place that is not like that, it is deprived? How many of us know that if we attend good schools with all the good resources, the probability that we will do better academically is very high than a place that is deprived? I know a lot of you know that. It is just a few people who may grow from a good place and may end up badly. But most of the time, if you get the resources that you need, you become a better person. If our parents conceived us and did not eat good food, it would affect our development. It will influence our development. Then again, in hereditary senses, there are certain things that our parents have and we take it from them. So as we learn the threats to development, we'll take a look at some of these things. Some of the things that we take from our parents and it influences our development. Sometimes it affects you the rest of your life because your parents had it. Sometimes it's recessive in them, so they don't see. But when both of them come together and they all have it, and you get both of those issues, you end up having problems. So, for example, poor nutrition can mar the growth of an individual. It will reduce intellectual abilities and stature. Poor nutrition can mar the growth of an individual, reduce intellectual abilities and stature. We should be mindful of that. So, I just want to say that if we don't have that opportunity to be in good families, things are difficult. Try your best for your children. Try the best for yourself as a child, because your parents are doing all that they can to help you. Try and influence yourself. If the environment will influence you, you try to also influence the environment and become a good person. So growth and development is of both hereditary and influenced by environmental factors. Our lines are still opened. You can WhatsApp and call 0503 923158. 0503 923158. Again, on Facebook page Radio Windy Bay 98.3 FM. So the last one, regarding principles of human growth and development, is most traits are correlated in development. Most traits are correlated in development. So it is known that development that are correlated or they are related, there is a relationship. So for instance, a child whose mental development is above average is also superior in so many other aspects like health, sociability, and special aptitudes. In the same way, when we talked about the environment, hereditary, influencing our development, there is a relationship. If the environment is good, the relationship or the result will be that the child will be a better person. A child will be well developed. It is rare to know that the environment is good, nutrition is good, development is good, and things are not going well with the child. It's rare. Research can bring out that, but most of the time there is a good relationship. Most traits are correlated in development. There is a good relationship. As one goes up, the other one too will go up. If development is not good, environment is not good, nutritional wise, economically, things are not well, it influences our growth and development. It influences our growth and development. We can call 0503 92 3158. 0503 92 3158. You can call and WhatsApp on these lines. Then we are there on Facebook page, Radio Windy Bay 98.3 FM. Radio Windy Bay 98.3 FM. Now we've talked about traits having a relationship when it comes to growth and development. We talked about growth and development, which is both hereditary and influenced by environmental factors. We talked about development is predictable. Rate of development varies from person to person, and it is also gradual. We mentioned that development proceeds from general to specific. General to specific. Development is sequential. Development is continuous. Development is orthogenetic. And then development is prosimodistal. That is, it starts from the center of the body outward. Then lastly, development proceeds from the top to bottom, the Cephalocordal Principle. So let's ask ourselves, how can we apply all these things to our education or in the classroom? Somebody has just sent us a message. This is from Akwe Richard from Department of Management Sciences. So Richard is saying that, good morning, madam. Thank you so much for your time this morning. My question is, when you compare 5 children from the same parent, you can see that development of these children will vary. Good. I want to know the factors that bring the variation in the development of these children. That's a good question. You want to know the variation that brings in. So there are a lot of things. I think this week, tomorrow we'll talk about threats. Some of you have already talked about the growth itself, the processes, conception and all that. We've talked about it. Now we are going to talk about threats to development, and these are the issues. We will talk about when we're doing the growth, we also said that the mother is XY. The mother is XX, and the man or the father is XY. On this X, most of the time, issues are on the X. So you realize that these 5 children, Richard, some of them will be tall, others will be short. Why is it so? Because the genetic aspect is on the X chromosome. So if your father has almost everything on the X, your mother will have it on both 2X. And so if they come together and there is a recessive gene in that X that makes people a bit short and your mother has it, you realize that you may end up having it. And then your other siblings may not have it because maybe your mother brought in a different X to meet your father's X or Y. And that brings the difference. At other times, there are problems on the X chromosome. So as we do threat to development, we'll talk about some of these things. That is where we have some children, their parents are not albinistic. So albinism, it is recessive in the parents. They come together and the child is having what? That trait. So you see albinism in that child, but you see the parents, they are not. Again, some children are sickle cell. In the same family, I have encountered a family whereby some of the children are not with the sickle cell trait, but the others have it. Others too may have the sickle cell trait, then the others are actually sickle cell anemic, just because the mother may have brought the one with it and the father also has it, the trait. So both parents are having it, but theirs is a trait. They give birth, then they give it to the child. Then the child will become sickle cell anemic. So that is where you see differences. So you realize that you are not getting sick and all that, but your other brother is always sick, or your other sister is always sick, always in the hospital, always being giving some blood. They are always donating blood. And there are others that are inherit the intellectual aspects. In a family, some of the children will be very, very intelligent. Others, hey, kwata, there's nothing. It is the trait that is in us that we transfer it to our children. So it is normal. All we just need to do that as we learn, we should be, there are certain ones that we can curb it. There are certain ones that we can curb it, especially with the sickle cell thing. Nowadays, a lot of places, especially with churches, when you go there for counseling before marriage, they will tell you that you need to test yourself to make sure that you do not have it, so that it does not affect your children. Because for you, you don't have a problem, but when you give birth and the children have it, it will be a problem for them. So as for variation, it is true, they will vary in growth and development. So as we talk about these principles, how do we apply it in our classrooms? There's somebody here too. This is from Carl Michael Adjen. So thank you for sending us a message. Your question is, in some cases where development is influenced by hereditary and environmental conditions, can there be a change in development when there is health operation in the body and change in the environment? So he's saying that where development is influenced by hereditary and environmental conditions, can there be a change in development when there is health operation in the body and change in the environment? Yes, there will be a change. And I can use myself as an example. I grew up in a certain environment where I can tell you the number of my mates that I started with who have become better people. But when you grow up at a certain stages of your life, maybe those environments where everybody takes education very serious, you realize that, let me say, about 95% of you become good people, better people, influential people. But in some environments, it becomes difficult. You take the whole class and you can count the number of people. For me, I can count the number of mates that I had in that class where I started my KG to JHS 2. At that time, it was JSS. I can count the number. And so when they even see you, they notice that, hey, as for you, you are at a certain level, a certain pedestal. Not because of anything, but it is because of the environment. It's because of where they found themselves. So if you don't live there, so that you will get good advice from people who will help you. A lot of people are in there, they are doing things that are not good. So they will influence your life. They are smoking, they are drinking, and a lot of my mates, this is what they are doing. They are into all sorts of lives. But when you come out of it, and I am not saying that all the people there are like that. No. Some people are able to get it very fast, and they realize that, no, this environment is not helping me. Though I don't have any option, I will stay here and I'll still become a better person. This is what some people will think about. But others don't see it this way. Oh, this is the life I have, and this is what God has given me. So let me stay in it and be like that. I have no option. But some people will tell themselves that they have. So you can stay in there and become a better person. If the environment change for you and you get good upbringing, good environment, in that same environment, things will become better for you. So as for that, we cannot dispute it. It has a lot of influence on our lives. So with our educational principle, I think we have some few minutes left. We talked about growth and development being directional. It starts from simple to complex. Most of us know that in our learning, we need to start from simple to complex. You cannot tell a child in class 1 to start to learn long division, to learn improper fraction, to learn a least common multiple, to learn simultaneous equation using the graph method and substitution method or elimination method. They will never get it. You need to start from somewhere. They need to learn the multiplication table, even start from the 1 times 1, 1 times 2, 1 times 3. Then they will come to 2, they will come to 3. Gradual process from simple to complex. They need to learn from 0 to 100, how to count it, how to write it. They need to know that 2 is bigger than 1. 5 is bigger than 2. They need to learn them. And you know, when they are in their KG and class 1, sometimes they don't even know that 5 is bigger than 3. Unless you put some pearls down or counters and let them count it, then they will know that, oh, this one is plenty, this one is small. Then they will know that there's a difference. But when they write it like that, it becomes an abstract thing for them. But as you grow up, for you, you've seen it before, you've experienced it before. So it doesn't become new. That is when more complex tasks. And as we move on, we will talk about Piaget's cognitive development, where we will learn more about how development takes place cognitively. The way we learn from the simple things, then it becomes more abstract, where the child becomes egocentric, and this time he is not. Always want to think in his own perspective. So we should start teaching children from simple to complex, even with adults. When you started first year, the things you are learning are simple. As you move on, then it becomes complex. That is why they are saying that when you come in, you come with your first class. But as you move on, then you are reducing your first class. It is simple. You will have to decide whether you want to make it better for yourself. Then it starts from general to specific. We should learn general things. Even I can use our university as an example. Or when we started from JHS, you were doing the general things, even in SHS too. Then as you move on, then you are narrowing it, becoming a specialized person. So you start from the general things. In other countries, I know that I hear when for them they learn everything. You will do physics, you will do chemistry, whether you are coming to do law or you are coming to do management, whatever you are doing, you will learn everything. Geog small, you will learn statistics small, you will learn physics small. You will do all those things. And so even here we do African studies, we do liberal, just for you to have a gist of what other people are doing, so that you can tolerate everybody, give respect to every course that you do. So we start from the general things, and as we move on, we narrow ourselves and become specialized people. And that is how development also takes place. And in our educational environments, we should also do the same thing. It starts from general to specific. Then we should take into consideration the individual variation in growth. The school programs must be adjusted accordingly to suit students' variation. There are individual differences in the classroom. How do we help our children? So, for instance, I made an example of this mate of mine with the son, thinking that all children are like this. Why is my child not doing the same thing? Development and growth, they come in variations. Your child will be like this, but give him the attention that he needs. He will become a better person in the future. So in the classroom, how do you help the children with various variations? Put the intelligent ones, mix them with those who have low IQ, and let them help. I may not know everything. So whilst I was going to school, especially in SHS and all that, if I know that this person knows mathematics more, we know there are some people. I went to a school where there are some people who are good in this particular thing. So we'll form a group, a discussion group, then we'll go and call the person. If the person is not in our group, we'll go and call him. You see, we have a problem with this. Come and teach us. When you finish, go. Another person will come in. That's what we do. And that has brought us this far. It varies from one child to the other. Another child may not be so good when it comes to academic things, but when it comes to hands-on activities, artistic stuff, artifacts, they are very good. We vary when it comes to these things, so we will need to help ourselves. So I have made a lot of strides in this. Teachers and parents should consider the maturation of the pupils or students, so they do not demand of students what is beyond their stage. We start from simple to complex. Teachers, what must we do so that we do not demand so much from students? And thus, Piaget talked about it in his cognitive development. Sometimes we want children to do certain things that they are not being carved for. It is a gradual process. It is a continuous thing. It is continuous. So start from somewhere and end somewhere. It is sequential. So start in a certain way, let it go one by one. The child learns 0, 1, 2. They start from 0 to 10. During the KGs, as they move on, they are learning up to 20, 30. KG now, even KG children, now they know from 0 to 100. But they started from 0 to 10. And now look at where they are. So give that attention to the children. Don't demand too much from them. Help them. Give them the resources that they need. If there is. If you need to improvise, do it. To be able to meet all these principles. And so then, we will bring this lecture to an end. Thank you very much for having me. I am Patricia MAWUSI Amos from the Department of Educational Foundations. God willing, next week we will come to conception, what is all about growth in the womb. We will talk about them, and we'll talk about labor. All these things have an influence in our lives. Somebody will say that no, this is nothing, but it has a lot of impact in our growth and development. And so next week, Mrs. Amma will come and meet you on that. Thank you very much and have a blessed day. We hope to see you tomorrow at the lecture, and be on time. Bye-bye.